For those of you who attended the symposium last year, well, here's a speaker who you will be happy to reconnect with. For the rest of us, we have an exciting new acquaintance to make. Johan Ronnestam. He's one of Sweden's leading authorities in the field of creative and conceptual thinking, innovating brands and communication. Initiating his career as one of Sweden's first professional snowboarders, I read that he did a 1,440-degree flip, right? Spin, not flip, obviously. Well, I'm not a snowboarder, but I think it's pretty impressive. I guess it's very impressive. Since then, Johan has constantly been pushing himself and his clients to live and act on the very edge. And today, Johan is here to discuss with us and talk with us about the blood, sweat, and tears of commercialization. So give Johan a warm hand.
So, here we go. Clip. Hello, everyone. I hope you are feeling good. It's a fantastic day. Soon we can go out and do the 1440 spin outside. So anyway, I'm here to talk about innovation. I'm here to share some ideas about this and some of the thoughts I have on the subject. And I only have 30 minutes. I took the opportunity to Google what you can do in 30 minutes, and I found that you could do Jamie Oliver tapas feast. You can do that in 30 minutes, so that means that I should be able to share some thoughts on innovation in 30 minutes. And he even done a book with tons of meals on 30 minutes meals. So I did my own book cover for this presentation. Ronnestam's 30-minute innovation crash course. That's what I'm going to do right now. So I'm going to speak about innovation, and innovation is a very broad subject, and if you look it up, I think this explanation is one of the best. Innovation is the profitable implementation of ideas. That means that it's not only ideas, it's not only creativity, it's profitable in implementation of ideas. If you break this up, you get innovation, profitable in implementation, and ideas, which means it consists of these three things. You first have to generate ideas, you then have to implement them in your organization, and you have to make them profitable. And that's, of course, the big challenge. It sounds very easy with innovation. Everybody speaks about innovation. We should disrupt the world with new services and so on, but it's truly hard. So I thought about bicycles and innovation, and thought about what's the challenge when you have something you want to innovate. Let's say, for example, you run a company that sells bicycles. Suddenly someone else creates a different kind of bicycle. And you have to think about this. How does this affect my business? Should I also start to do these tandem mountain bikes? Should I do regular mountain bikes? This one is obviously blue. Should I spend more money on design? Should I spend more money on innovation on the wheels, on the gears, how you brake the thing and so on? And then someone else comes along and he adds an electric engine to this bike. And you have to start thinking, do I sell bikes, or do I sell motorbikes, or do I sell electrical bikes, or should I sell something else? Then someone else creates a normal bike with an electrical motor, and you start thinking, maybe I should sell normal bikes as well. Then IKEA comes along and cuts the price and launches a bike called Sladda, I think it's called. And it's super cheap, but with the same quality that you ask the market for a much higher price for. And then you have another challenge on your hands. And then some other guy actually creates a two-wheel bike or electrical bike that you don't have to use your feet to move forward, you just lean forward, the Segway. Did you know that the poor guy who created this one actually rode this version out from a cliff and died? He was trying out the new terrain Segway, and apparently something was wrong with the prototype, so he ran out over a mountain or a cliff in England, actually. So anyway, so is this a competitor to your industry? Then suddenly every kid in Stockholm goes around on one of this and takes away the handle on this Segway, and you have to start thinking, is this what I should compete with? Then someone else creates a new business model. You don't even have to buy the bike. You just rent the bike whenever it suits you. Someone else comes up with the idea that it's a really good place to sell other products connected to this invention. They realize that that should probably be a good place to sell helmets, very close to these people who don't have any helmets when they use this new service. And to get those bikes and use them, you have to start using an app. Suddenly the competition is no longer the bike. It's the user interface and the technology you're using to implement the application to use the bike. And then someone launches a shoe with air in the sole, and people start to run and stop buying bikes. You're now in the, is this your competition or is it not? Is this what you should do? Most of you would probably say, no, I'm selling bikes. Apple sold computers. They make money from music and applications and games. They don't make money from computers anymore, more or less. They make money from something else. And then someone else launches a subway. And people stop running, and your industry and with your company and whatever you sell. You can see how the customer loyalty is decreasing. Is that the reason behind why you should start working more with innovation? You have new business model that disrupting your existing business. Those rental bikes, that's actually a new business model. It's totally disrupting what you're doing. You have new competitors on the market. IKEA suddenly comes in from the side here, and they are actually also, competing with you on the low end on the market, but they're still offering the same functionality, but for a much lower price. And in the middle, we also have new behaviors like those running shoes or, taking the train to work instead of using the bike. So you have all these different reasons for innovation. And I would say that the biggest challenge for a company is obviously to understand when is the time to innovate. You don't need to innovate every year, but you need to constantly make sure that this doesn't happen and that you're on track of competing with the new substitutes and so on. Usually it's just about survival, basically. That's what it's all about. Every company that doesn't innovate themselves sooner or later will die. If you look at the Fortune top 500 companies, the top 50 of the top 100, 50 out of the top 100 are companies that didn't exist on that list 10 years ago. And they take out the other company that has been in the industry for a long time. So innovation is a pretty tough subject, and it's something that we have to think about, and you're thinking about right now. And there's three types of innovations. There's efficiency innovation, there's evolutionary innovation, and there's revolutionary innovation. We tend to read the business mags, and we only read about revolutionary innovation. We think like, wow, it's fantastic. Spotify is totally changing the market. I'm going to go home and do the same thing like they do. I'm going to disrupt the market. Very few brands in the world do revolutionary innovation. Most brands do efficiency innovations. They make things a little bit better all the time. The second someone does revolutionary innovation, the only thing they do is basically just raise the bar, unless they have such a strong patent so no one else can follow them. But by doing revolutionary innovation, you basically tell people that this was possible. That was an experience, for example, connected to myself when I did this 1440 spin on a snowboard. Before that, people had only done 720s, which is 2 laps. You rotate 2 times. And 1440 is that you basically rotate on your snowboard like this 4 times. I did 2 laps, and then I landed that thing, and I thought, like, maybe you could do 3. And I told my friend, I think we can do 3 laps, or 3 spins. And my friend Gustav, he said, you can't do 3, no one has done 3. Yeah, it should be possible. So I just took more speed, and after a couple of landings, landing on my head, I landed on my feet. And then I told him, like, I think you can do 4. So in the same day, I went from doing 2 spins to 4 spins, and suddenly I had changed how people looked upon spinning on a snowboard. But it only took like a week before someone else started to think, like, maybe I can do 4. And then lots of people started doing more spins. But it's, when someone really changes it for the first time, that's when you change the perception of it. So for most companies and most of you in here, it should probably be about making things more efficient and slowly, have an evolution of the products and services you offer. Basically, small iterations. There's 4 strategies that I think of. The first one is being inventive, as we said there, with the revolutionary innovations. That's being first to market. I think this is a perfect example. This is the power plug for this one that I just pulled from the computer. Apple realized that by having a magnet here, if I walk on this one on stage, the computer doesn't follow. It's a very small innovation, but it's revolutionary, and no one else had done it on the market before they did it. It's not that easy. It's not something you can have a workshop around next week and then you come up with some revolutionary ideas. It's a very long process. It's very closely connected to your organization and your recruitment, how you have an innovation process in place. You probably have to have an entire part in your company where you only work with prototyping and creating new things and so on. The other thing is much easier to do, but really hard to time. It's being adaptive, doing adaptive innovation. That's second but best. This is Facebook. Facebook was launched in 2006 to the public, started in 2004. In 1997, there was a company called 6degrees.com. They did exactly what Facebook did. There was no difference. Facebook just launched it much more, they had a better timing basically. We had much more people that were prepared to start using a service like Facebook on a global scale compared to 6 Degrees when they were launched. When they launched, only nerds thought it was really fun and they died after 1 year. Most of the services we see today in the technical, digital market, basically virtual products like Spotify and whatever, Avanza, whatever you take there. I've seen it all for the last 20 years. There's nothing new at all. Uber, it's nothing new. We've seen it before. It's just timing and someone, really worked through the process and they, made people use it in a time where we were prepared to start using it. All the technologies came into place, the behaviors came into place, and people used the new service. But it's usually not new things. This is probably a very good thing to do for an established brand, because once an established brand does this really, really well, we move to that brand. Uber is a good example. I used Uber or Uber or whatever a lot of times in Stockholm for the last couple of years. And then Taxi Stockholm suddenly releases the same service. Then I stopped using Uber because I ride the taxi with Taxi Stockholm all the time. And as long as they keep up with Uber and use the same quality of service, I will move back to an established brand. This happens in every established industry all the time. This one is a no-brainer, has been going on for a long time. Economy, innovation, low-cost producers. We often think of factories, big companies moving the production somewhere, implementing robots. The interesting thing right now is that we can start using artificial intelligence in small companies by using cloud-based services. We can start using different services online for project management, for process-driven projects. We can use it for creative development. We can use it to outsource our data power, and we can use other kind of services that are online. So before that all came along, you had to be a pretty big company, but now small companies suddenly can do this. We can outsource our entire creation to Upwork, for example, and use people sitting in Fiji or Bangladesh that create things for us. So we can basically create low-cost innovation. And the last one is using existing technologies in new ways. This is a picture from the Olympics in China. I think this is a really good example. Before this one, someone had to run all over the field and get that, the javelin or whatever it's called, and then run back and give it to someone. And someone just thought, why don't we use a radio-controlled car and drive it back and forward? But it is a really good invention or innovation. So once we're here, we have some sort of a common idea of what we think innovation is, or at least what I think it is. So then it's time to do that workshop that we all see happening in all different companies. we're going to have a workshop. We get people from customer service, we get them from the financial department, we get them from the management team, we put them all in a room, we give them all colored pencils, and we have fun. And now we're going to create great things. We have to demand strategic outcome from workshops. People that are in workshop has to be educated in creating things. The people who leads the workshop has to be educated in creating things. They have to do this for a very long time. Everyone in here is a creative person to some sense. Everyone in here can draw. You can probably fix your own plumbing at home as well. But if you want to be really good at it, you have to do it on a daily basis. You can visit this area every now and then, have a little bit of fun, but you can't expect your company to grow from throwing a lot of people into a room for 2 days and then do some workshops, and out comes a great idea. You have to control this workshop. I often call it that the big problem with having workshops is that if you don't control the workshop, you give them some ideas like, or some missions like go in there and create some ideas. It's like these sheep. You put them out on the field and one runs over there and one runs over there and one runs over there. And then you have to spend 3 months of talking politically to your own organization to make sure they all run in the right direction again. Because Darish here, he will come up with a really great idea. It's a fantastic idea. But it has nothing to do with our company and where we want to take the company. And then I'm over here, I'm like, I have this idea. And we fight because we want to, make sure we both get our idea forward. So you have to make sure that you frame these workshops really carefully. What are people in the workshop for? What is the purpose with the workshop? What kind of outcome do we want to have from this workshop? How many ideas do we want? When are they supposed to be implemented? What kind of technology, areas of technology? It's a common understanding or some sort of idea that people should go in here and be really creative. Well, it's no good if someone comes out of this room and say, we're going to create something that develops our industry within the biking or creates a new bike, and someone else comes out and says, I had this great idea, we're going to do something where people fly in the air. I'm like, there's no technologies that make people fly in the air. I saw this program on Discovery. I saw people flying in the air. We should do flying saucers. That doesn't work. So we have to have very, very clear goals, and we have to frame, this workshop very carefully to make sure that they come out with the right kind of ideas. And we have to prepare. How many has been in this situation? This pen sucks. I do a lot of workshop. Almost every company I come to, I go up to the whiteboard, I grab the pen, and it doesn't work. And I turn around and say, why doesn't the pen work? Oh, I don't know, it never works. Why don't you throw it away? Oh, it's not me who should throw it away. Why not? It's your company, throw the shit away. It doesn't work. We all recognize this. And on top of this, they have a whiteboard that is 1.5 meters times 2 meters. Say, we're going to have a fantastic workshop. Everything you want to take notes on, put it on this little small whiteboard. And make sure you erase everything before the meeting is over. This is my last office. I have a new office now. This is part of the walls. I have every wall in the entire office. We had whiteboard paint, so you could paint any wall. We also had big cardboard blocks, so we could put things up on those cardboard blocks. And then I could turn them around when new clients come in. And then when Darius comes in again, I can turn them back and say, we were here last meeting, let's continue now. But all these organizations, they just sit there, they come up with some ideas, they take everything away, no one takes notes, and then you don't get any innovation. I use this, I don't even know what it's called in English, heftmassa. It's like a clay, which means whatever you have, let's say, oh, this is a good idea. You put it on this, and then you put it on the wall. And then you start drawing around it. Then people will say, like, yeah, but we're a very innovative company. We have this software that we bought. Everybody has to work in the software. Online, in our own cloud. That's how we create innovation. You have to have tons of different tools. These are some of the tools that I always use. A lot of walls, a lot of pens, a lot of clay. I use MindMeister, which is a cloud-based software for doing great mind maps and sharing them with people and taking quick notes. Pinterest to browse tons of information. Omni Outliner, which is a software where I can take a lot of notes and then move all the notes around. I use Flipboard, I use Google, I use Thesaurus, which is a dictionary that gives you other words. So if I want to look up, I don't know, chair, I will find tons of other words and it will take me in new directions. These are some of the tools I use. This tool, Google, is the least used tool that I find that people don't use that people don't use in organizations. When I have a meeting with companies, they come to me and say, "We have this idea about this thing," and I'm like, "Okay, have you Googled it? There's 24 more of this service." "What? We thought we were the first." "Haven't you Googled your own idea?" "No." People don't even Google their own ideas. They don't Google their own companies. I had a meeting with Volvo. We were talking self-driving cars in 2010. And they're like, "Yeah, we're working with braking systems." I'm like, "Yeah, but there's Google. They have a self-driving car on the market." "No." "Yeah, it's on YouTube." "What? It can't be real." The board of directors hadn't even Googled their own brand, their own industry. So let's fire some neurons. You know, neurons is in our brains. If we come up with one idea, and then I see this flower, it will remind me of other things, and then the neurons fire with the synapses, and I create new ideas. In my case, I also use a playlist. Sounds like this. Every project I've worked on for the last 12 years, I've used this playlist. It's behavior. It's behavioral science. I put it on, and then I get into creation mode. There's no speaking, I don't have to relate to anything, there's just something that shuts out everything, and it puts me directly into creativity. There's some writers in the world that have one song, and they just rotate the song over and over and over again when they write books. And then I start thinking about this bike. Okay, I run the bike company. It's a really interesting bike, but I need to create a cooler bike. So I want to create a cool bike. Cool, that's ice. Blue, cool, cold, ice, cold. Cool. A blue bike. Should we do a blue bike? Blue, that's feelings, huh? Feelings. Maybe we should do something, feelings and a bike. A bike that sends my feelings. That should be cool. A bike that sends that means that, we can do intelligent brakes. It can sense that I'm afraid, and then the bike can, brake, and I can make sure I don't run into the ditch. That means that we have to have sensors of sweat in the handlebars. That's cool. So it's about handles. Maybe we do something with handles. We do a new handlebar. That's really, really cool. With technology inside, we need technology inside the handlebar. Then we can have an integrated GPS inside there, and we could have a screen on the handlebar, which means we can connect ourselves online to the rest of the world. We can do an intelligent handlebar. This is a creative process. You have to release creativity and follow those neurons that are firing. And you have to make sure that it takes you somewhere. That means that I did it just before the meeting here 2 hours ago. I put together this. We have an integrated screen. We put some e-ink in there, like the Nike Fuel Band, so we can see a lot of data of what we're doing on the bike. We need to widen the base. Then I found this picture of another, which is more of a racing bar. Apple just released this new touch bar on the new GoPro, so we have a touch bar on the entire handlebar. We make sure there's an accelerator in the system, so we have an emergency braking system that feels if we need to brake. We integrate GPS and timing. We integrate the lights inside the handlebar. Why should you buy other handles? We connect it with Bluetooth to our speakers so we can have interaction and maybe steer all those things with voice. And then maybe I can even Facebook as I go around on my new bike. And then when I do this, I always think about, will this work? So I put it in context, and then I launch it. I call it the Falcon IntelliBar, and I create an ad. I started doing this around 11:30 today before the meeting. It might not be good. But what I'm doing here is I'm releasing, being creative, thinking about how these things change. And then I think about how it could look out there on the market. One thing we really have to start doing a lot more when we create innovation is to put marketing and branding into the creative process very, very early. Because that has to steer how we do things. That needs to steer how, for example, if we see that this new product I'm thinking of, it's going to be really hard to market it, then maybe we should kill it quite early and focus on that other product that we see can be visualized a lot better. So to sum up then, there's 5 things that I would like to share that I think is very, very important when you want to innovate. The first thing is that we should demand strategic outcome. What I mean with this is we should not have an innovation process that is not controlled from the beginning, that is supposed to lead to result within the area that we're working with, in. We need to tell people that this is what we want to create. We have a gap in the market here. We need something here. Our competitors are running with this product. IKEA just launched this very cheap product. We have this other thing that is messing up our market. We have this new brand. They have fantastic design. Our design is lagging. We have to be very, very strategic. There might be some great ideas coming out there that might create a revolution. That's very, very good. But for most of the brands that we are working on, we need to demand that the innovation process actually delivers a strategic outcome. Because what happens is the organization will follow this new innovation. And what happens if it's not right is that the organization will not follow the next innovation. It's like Torget from Svenska Posten, the Swedish mail in the year 1998. They invested $500 million in something that was probably 8 years ahead of market, which was not bad. But then they didn't invest in anything for the next 8 years. With the basically what they said was, we know, it doesn't work to do something online because we invested 500 million Swedish crowns on it. So then they missed everything that had to do with digitalization because they went for one idea too early. One fun workshop a year is not the answer. This has to be a continuous process. It has to be very, very thought through. What I find is often that leaders does not put their money where their mouth is. They stand in Dagens Industri or Computer Sweden or something else and they say we want to work with innovation, we're going to be very strong in this new digital world and we are going to be good at technology. And then they have one guy sitting in the corner somewhere building an application and he doesn't even know how to code those new applications. They don't invest money in it for real. Don't expect to disrupt the world. Disruption is not a goal of innovation. In fact, to be a little bit more, thinking a little bit more, why should you even disrupt things? It's not really good for the world to disrupt things. You might make a lot of money, but you're going to destroy an industry. Why not just make things a little bit better and keep being, be good with it? It's good to stay ahead of people. And there is not really a lot of companies that actually do disrupt their own markets. The last one is think marketing and branding very early in the process. Because this will be what it will all be about. And if Trump showed us something, he showed that communication and branding is what it's all about. We don't give a shit about what's behind, obviously. So, demand strategic outcome. One fun workshop a year is not the answer. Leaders, put your money where the mouth is. Don't expect to disrupt the world. Think marketing and branding early in the process. And that was my 30-minute innovation crash course. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yesterday, one of the participants asked me a question, and I want to continue. I want to ask you the same question. So the person asked me this. Okay, so Susanna, you're a very established person within the innovations world, and I go, okay. How do I become a you? And I was like, oh. And I started talking about what I think and how I do and so on. And I want to ask you the same thing, because obviously when you talk, we all laugh and we think it's great, and we look at your creativity process and we say, yeah, okay, but you know, this, we want to be like you, basically, some of us at least. So I'm asking you, so how do we become a you?
Like everything else in life, you train and practice a lot. I read about 300 blogs a day on all the subjects I think is interesting. I filter the information, so I don't need to read them if they don't have updated themselves. But I read a lot of information, and I make sure that I think about it like a process within sport, for example. If you want to be good at surfing, which I love, you have to go out and paddle 2 kilometers every day, every year. 365 days, preferably a year. And then you become strong, and then you can do it better. And that's what I mean. One workshop a year doesn't solve the... I mean, you can do it anyway, but it's not going to be good. So it's all about practice, training, and doing a lot of mistakes. And daring to do those mistakes is very, very important, I would say.
So lots of practice, lots of mistakes.
Yeah.
What questions do you have for Johan? Or reflections?
None at all. Yep.
Yes.
Hi, Bo Olsson, Ecam. What was the very start of it? How did it all started for you?
For me?
For you?
It all started for me when I was very, very young. Probably methodically, it started when I was around 12, 13 years, and I realized that all the ideas I had, I started to write down the business ideas, and at that time I heard about people, having a notepad besides their bed and writing down things, and then it probably took me another 10 years before I really started to understand that all these ideas I write down, if I want to do something with them, I have to move and actually do something about it. So I spent a lot of years basically quietly being interested about this. And when it comes to creativity, I basically always been drawing and designing things, so I've connected those things. But writing down things, communicating to people and telling people, I believe this, and daring to say to you that I think that's an ugly watch, and you say, oh, that's a nice watch, and we have a discussion, will still teach me something. Because I put myself out there and I have an opinion. It might be right, it might be wrong. But by telling people what you think, you will get a lot of feedback back, and in the long run, you can start filter that and have your own impression of things.
Thank you. It was very interesting. I'm Neda Nordin, passionate about organizing innovations.
Yep.
So from the perspective of large companies, you said one workshop is not enough. So
Yep.
how many and to whom?
I think if you talk about large companies, I think there should be a department, of course. I think you should have, I'm a creative director, so it's not about promoting myself, but I think you should have a creative director. You should have someone, the same way you have a CEO, you have a financial director, you have someone else, you should have someone that leads the creative process in the company. And that is needed because you need someone that leads it from a knowledge perspective to understand what kind of tools you can use and to tell people how you can move faster and so on. But you also need it because you need a gatekeeper in the company. You need someone that says that this is really nice, but I don't like the design of this mic, do it again. And then someone has said, but I think it's good. Yeah, but I'm the boss of creativity in this company, so this is not good enough, we have to redo it. All great company has someone that actually says, we need to do this better. And then coming back to how many workshops, I would think it's a little bit up to that person. I think you need to touch down in the organization from a political perspective every now and then to get people on board and so on. But you can, I would say, you need to steer that quite hard or control it very well. You don't need their creativity for new ideas. That said, I do think ideas like a suggestion box, for example, in a company, and I mean, one of those old mailing boxes where people write down a note and put it on paper. That's good. Put it on the internet. I met the guy once when I was surfing on Bali. He was a German guy. He was traveling the globe with his motorbike and had done it for 5 years. And he was an engineer in a German company that had a suggestion box. And he put a note in this suggestion box on how to optimize the drilling tip so they can minimize the use of diamonds in the process of creating drilling tips, basically. He became financially independent because the company gave him a royalty of all the money they saved from his idea in that suggestion box. So still use the organization, of course, but have someone that leads it.
Last question. Okay, thank you. Thank you for letting us into your world, your way of thinking. This is more of a reflection than anything else. I'm very happy to hear you say that disruptive innovation is not the only innovation, because when you read those American innovation books, it's very often about the companies that have succeeded in doing disruptive innovations. But that's not everyday life. And I read this Jim Collins book where he said that when the mighty fall.
Yeah.
And I thought that was very interesting, because there he says, well, you can actually innovate too much.
Absolutely.
So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, and thank you for commenting. Thank you for giving us your book and your intelligent steering wheel and all that. It's been great having you here this year too, and let's give Johan a warm hand.
Thank you very much. Thank you.